Welcome to Truest Blood, the official True Blood podcast.
I'm Kristin Bauer.
And I'm Deborah Ann Wool.
And you've been invited in.
I want to do bad things with you. On Truest Blood.
Welcome back to Truest Blood, where we sink our fangs into the series episode by episode.
This week, we get hooked on episode, what is it, Kristin?
107.
Yay! Burning House of Love, written by Chris Offutt and directed by Marcos Siega.
Bill clarifies some vampire myths for us, right? And in the bathtub there. And Jason takes a trip to Fantasia, where he meets an alluring new character, Amy Burley.
And we'll break down that riveting exorcism scene. We'll talk about how it was filmed, as well as how the power of belief plays into our story this episode, which leads me to our wonderful interview with Aisha Hinds this episode, the exorcist herself.
What a great interview with Aisha. Her audition story and the specifics of filming in the bus, I can't wait for everyone to hear it. But first, as always, this week on True Blood.
Compton House is at a steamy 107 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's not including the raging fire and muggy Louisiana climate. It's all Sookie and Bill as they consummate their love and cap it off with a romantic bubble bath, basking in their newfound connection.
Is it always like this?
No, it is not.
Sookie, feeling safe with Bill, confides in him about her Uncle Bartlett's unforgivable behavior toward her when she was a child, which leaves Bill looking murderous.
Letty Mae continues to pressure Tara into funding her exorcism, and Tara finally gives in, seeing just how much pain her mother is in.
I do not want to live like this no more. I can't.
Tara gathers up her savings and takes her mother to see Miss Jeanette, who performs the exorcism in a bus by the side of the road. But the experience is powerful. As they leave, Miss Jeanette warns Tara that she has a demon of her own, and it's far more dangerous than her mother's.
Jason, now hooked, goes looking for more V. And when Lafayette turns him away, he tries Fantasia, where Pam can smell a hick from a mile away.
Your mama know you're out in the big city.
Well, Mama's dead.
So am I. Let me see some ID.
There he meets Amy, who whisks him away before he can get himself sucked dead by angry vamps. They go back to his place, and she opens his mind to all the possibility that V possesses. The next day, Andy and Terry are fishing when they see a naked Sam running through the woods. But more on that later.
Sookie, still bouncing with hormones, has a rude awakening when Bill's old vampire friends, Malcolm, Diane, and Liam, saunter into Merlotte's, causing quite the stir. Bill, busy feeding Uncle Bartlett to the gators, senses Sookie's fear. He arrives just in time, but surprisingly leaves with the vamps.
I am not human, Sookie. I am vampire.
Sookie senses this is a strategy to get the others to leave, but when Royce and his buddies burn the vamp nest to the ground and 4 caskets are recovered, she can't help but worry that Bill might be among them. So we get a nice little tutorial there, Deb, a vampire mess in the bathtub.
Right at the beginning. I like that. It's a fun, cheeky conversation for vampire fans.
Yeah, it's cute. It's like the dating banter after you first had sex. It's like, so anyway, where'd you grow up and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, so garlic?
I know, it's very cute in that way.
Yeah.
But it's really fun. Again, as like a horror movie fan who grew up on all those sort of old vampire myths, the idea that, the holy water is just water and crosses are just geometry. Mm-hmm. I especially like the reflection one because Bill sets it up as a protection device.
Right.
That this is something we put out there so that we could prove that we were human. And it's such a smart, defense mechanism.
Yeah, that they like all these myths to keep them safer. Yeah. I'm just realizing too that I'm like, do I really have sex with people before I know where they're from?
She knew where he was from. He's from here.
Yeah, no, but I was like, it's like when you have sex and then you're like, oh, so where are you from?
Right.
No, I don't do that. I just want to be clear to the audience.
Kristin doesn't do that. Kristin knows where all of her partners are from.
Yeah, before I have sex with them.
Yes.
My banter after sex would be different. My getting to know you banter. Yes, I was going to call it vamper.
Ooh, well, that is right up our alley here. Vanter.
Vanter, thank you.
Well, and I think one of the other fun things about it that we talked about is that when Sookie goes to work the next day, she's positively glowing.
She is. I've never had sex that good. Can I just...
My goodness.
This is... Clearly, I've never had sex with a vampire because...
Apparently.
I was watching this thinking, so wait, her grandmother died like 2 days ago?
Like 36 hours ago.
36 hours ago.
Yeah.
And then the funeral was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And wow.
Yeah, she is in a good mood. And it's definitely...
She's in a better mood than I've ever been in my life, I think.
She goes to work. And I think it's not surprising that everyone around her is kind of looking at her strangely. Yeah. And it's one of those things that is a really different experience when you're watching it week to week when it first came out versus binging now. Yes. And you go, oh, it's been a really short period of time.
Yes, that's true with binging. You're like, I just watched Gran's funeral 5 minutes ago. And she goes to work. That is a funny thing, too. She goes to work. Like, most people wouldn't go to work the day after their grand's funeral or 36 hours after.
I feel like Sam would be like, hey, you don't have to be here.
Right.
Why don't you go home and spend some time with your family and your friends and those things. But it's just very, very funny.
But that's episodic TV for you. And once again, Anna just rises to the occasion and completely brings it home and sells it. It's amazing.
Even Lafayette is sort of skeptical of this bright mood.
Yes.
I don't know, Sugar. I just think that when there's blood involved, a line been crossed.
Oh, I definitely crossed a line, but glad I did.
Well, you go ahead on, hooker with your bad ass. Good for you. It ain't possible to live unless you crossing somebody's line.
Oh, it's a pretty perfect. It's not possible to live unless you're crossing somebody's line.
I know.
It's good theme for this show, I feel.
It is a good theme for the show. And it's a good theme. I keep learning life lessons now doing this podcast because I think, true, you can't keep everyone happy all the time.
Yeah. When I think, she's at least crossing, her own lines a little bit and starting to step out of her comfort zone. Yeah. Jason is also stepping out of his comfort zone as he heads to Fantasia, because we go back there and we have my favorite line of the episode, which we highlighted in the recap. I love that, Kristin. Do you have any memories or stories from that day?
I do, because I showed up there down in Long Beach at night, and Alex was leaving. He is done for the evening, and he was at craft service loading up on some to-go food. And it was the first day. I think he had used his fangs first that day as well, or recently. So I said to him, I've got my first day with my fangs, talking with my fangs. And he goes, oh, yeah, I just did that. And I said, how is it? Is it easy? And he put his head like he was going to nod yes, like a big yes. And he went, no. So when I got to makeup, I said, are my fangs here? Can I try the fangs before we shoot? And they said, yeah, sure. So they went to get them. They put them in my mouth. And I was like, wow, they're really freaking big. And then they had me smile to match the color to my teeth. So they took them immediately to change the color. Oh. And I said, can I have them back when you're done so I can practice talking in them? And they said, yeah. So then I get to the set, no teeth. So I said, am my teeth here? Could I try my teeth? And they said, well, we're going to just do the part without the teeth first.
Okay.
And no one told me how this was going to go. So I did the take, and then they said, hold for the teeth. Now, I don't know what's happening. They ran in, put the teeth in my hand, said, put them in, and just do the dialogue with the teeth in. And so I said to Jason, you are nothing like your sister. And there was a pause. Ryan and the crew and the director, I hear all this laughing.
Oh, no.
And they said, okay, cut. Give her a minute with the teeth. So,
and you're like, that's all I asked for.
and I'm like, holy shit. So I am trying to figure out where to put the teeth in my mouth.
Right.
Like
how to get your lips around
How to get
them.
your lips around them. Should I tuck them between my bottom lip and my bottom teeth? Or
Yeah.
where can these live where I won't sound like ridiculous? And
because you're supposed to be cool and immortal, not...
Yes.
Yeah.
That came crashing down. So years later, I went to you and Steven because you were always the best with the teeth. Steven said, you have to just take the pain. There's no place to put them.
Yeah.
You just have to let them dig into your bottom lip and it hurts.
Yeah. We all have little calluses on our lower lips.
And that was the thing I really never really learned. So that line, you're nothing like your sister, they didn't use with my teeth in.
Yes, they had you bang out after that line.
They had me bang out after that line.
But come on. I mean, that's a particularly
S's are hard.
tough one with a lispy, quality to do. So, yeah.
You're always so kind because right now, if I made you get your teeth, you could do that line without lisping.
I think they're sitting over there.
You could totally do that line without lisping.
It's been quite a few years. I might be out of practice.
You might.
Yeah.
Anna used to always come over to me when I had my teeth in and say Sookie Stackhouse, just to laugh.
It's the freaking worst. Her name
Sookie
is the hardest name to say with teeth. Sookie Stackhouse.
Sookie Stackhouse.
Sookie Stackhouse.
Listen,
How do
Sookie.
I get my listen, Sookie?
Yeah, so that was my Fantasia moment.
Well, I love also how easily Jason is glamored. That feels so on brand for him.
Yes.
That like Pam, almost no effort. She just kind of tilts her head the other direction,
Yes.
and he's instantly under her spell.
That was another thing I had to ask. No one told me. I said, "Hey guys, how do we glamour? How is that established?
Is there a system to this?"
Yeah, so that's what I did from what they said, and it is great. It fits perfectly that Jason and then hits on me.
Yes.
Like, oh, Jason.
What are you doing afterwards?
Yeah. Oh, really? Seriously?
Oh, it's too funny. It's too funny. It is kind of wonderful to see Jason, who, most women in Bon Temps are putty in his hands. And yet when he comes to the big city, it's a whole other ball game with the sexy vampires.
Yes. Yeah, I love that line. I do love that line. That
it's so great. It's so perfect. And it's just the right kind of joke. But yeah, so Jason now, gets into Fantasia. He's making all of the wrong moves. He's drawing far too much attention. He's 100% going to get himself killed until Amy Burley comes and saves the day.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of, he's putty in most humans' hands, women's hands. So she's attracted to him, clearly. Mm-hmm. And they immediately form a connection because she realizes that because he's so overt about it, that he's looking for V.
He is. And that's something that Amy knows something about. And it's interesting to see actually the sort of descent of Jason into that he, Lafayette, who was one of his closest friends, and they have all of these, comrade moments, and now he's to the point where he's pissing Lafayette. Lafayette had to get physical with him and throw him out of his home. And then he goes and he tries to steal from Gran and Sookie. Yeah. And now going to Fantasia, I mean, we start to really see his addiction take off, I think. We saw bits of that in the last episode, and now he's really making these rash decisions.
Mm-hmm. It was set up really well as we see how he dealt with loss, his experience with V, it really makes sense to me. Well, of course, Ryan is also so wonderful. I mean, he just makes Jason make sense always.
Yes. Jason does not make sense without Ryan Quanten.
That's
I think,
exactly
in many
it.
ways. You need a Ryan Quanten in that role.
Yeah.
But, I think part of what is so wonderful and explosive about the pairing of Amy and Jason is that, we're going to talk a little bit about belief in this episode and how belief adds to our experiences. And for Amy, Lafayette made V sound seductive and sexy, but it was still just drugs, right? Amy makes it this religious experience, that her belief in the power of the experience makes that experience even greater.
You just know this is what Holy Communion is symbolic of. This is the real deal here. Not lame-ass, empty ritual. This is nature's greatest gift.
I mean, the dialogue with her delivery is so incredible.
It's so good. My spine.
Right?
Like, oh, chilly. Yeah. Well, again, you can see, Jason, who is often putty himself, but even then, I don't blame him. Again, I feel her influence.
I do. I was going to say, it makes me want to do it right now.
Yeah. When she, we're going to learn so much about Amy Burley as these episodes go on, because she's so much more even than we meet in this first episode. But there are hints of it, these little hints of sort of what her brain has done to V and to her life and all this idea. She's like, oh, Jason, you're so authentic,
Right. Like his old TV.
His truck,
truck.
She's created this sort of fantasy around him.
Yes, that's the opposite of her upbringing.
No, but it is really fascinating to see how he just, like, I think the way I said it once is like, it's like Jason's back in school, but now the teacher's hot,
Yes!
So he's like into like all her brainy shit, and also because she doesn't make him feel bad for not being into brainy shit. But some of her lines crack me up so much. Again, you're right on. It's her delivery with the line, because they're kind of ridiculous when you read them on the page. And even as I was watching, I was just laughing. And it's just
what's so amazing
right.
is that I did not notice or think her lines were ridiculous until I saw them on the page and you commented on that. And then I was like, oh my God, how did she say that line?
How did she do this? They must have been cracking up every other sentence.
Because I would see that script come through my mail slot and be like, oh dear, how am I going to ground this? But I never thought that when I was watching her.
Not once.
No.
By taking the blood of the night into our bodies, we water the flowers of our souls. Nothing is real. Everything is permitted.
Even now, I can't quite keep a straight face. What does it even mean?
What does that even mean? By taking the blood of the night. Okay. All right, blood of the night. That's vampires.
We water the
flowers of our souls. Nothing is real, right? Okay, nothing? Well, okay. Everything is permitted. It's like, cool. I'm just going to be high.
Which just explains a lot, right? Like, it gives her permission to be whatever she wants to be, whatever suits her.
It's definitely the LSD crowd.
Yeah, that this is an archetype or a sort of identity that we see in the real world as well as in the world of True Blood.
Yeah, for sure. I saw it.
Well, and now for a quick bite, a guest star spotlight.
Randy Sue, Jason's latest fling, is a small-town divorcee, newly single and looking for love in all the wrong places. She is played with pitch perfection by Danielle James. From her accent to her posture to adjusting herself in the payphone reflection, Danielle's performance is so fully realized, you'd think she and Randy Sue might have a lot in common. Think again.
Danielle James was born in the United States, but was raised all over Europe, places like Paris, London, and Barcelona. As a result, she speaks 4 languages, graduated magna cum laude in Paris, and has performed all over the world, including on Broadway. More recently, she has added producing to her resume as well.
So here's to Randy Sue, who never held back, and to Danielle, who never did either. I guess they have a lot in common after all.
The exorcism. Here we go.
That was rich, that scene.
Really, really was.
Right?
And it's one of those ones where, like so much on True Blood, it's so out there, it could really fall either side of the line.
Yes.
And this one falls onto the deep side, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've learned a little bit about how they shot it, because there's a lot of interesting things going on here. We can jump right in with, where they found this bus.
Yeah, wasn't it sort of by happenstance?
Yes.
They saw it by the side of this road.
They were on a location scout, and they had some idea in their head that it should be a bus on the side of the road. But as they were driving to the location they were interested in, they passed an old VW bus on the side of the road, buried in this, and just literally what they were looking for.
Oh my gosh.
And I think they just said, whoa, pull over. And that's where they ended up quite literally shooting the exterior scenes of the bus. And then they built the bus on set later, which we will hear Aisha Hines later today talk all about her experience shooting in that set.
It's so challenging. When we build sets, there are walls that can be removed because the cameras are huge. They're half the size of a dining room table. So to get the camera, they can put it on their shoulder and do steady cam. That's not easy for the camera operator.
No.
So to get in this bus with 3 humans.
And to also get dynamics, right? You don't want just a stable camera. You want angles, and you want movement, and, doing all that in a little bus. Very challenging.
So challenging. And these actors sell this stuff. Once again, I just love actors because they Adina, all of them, they sell it.
They sell it.
They
they were there,
it.
absolutely present, absolutely in full belief of this moment. The only character that did not believe in the moment, actually, was the Possum.
Right.
The Possum was the most problematic actor on set. So the tidbit that we got about this is they needed the Possum to react fearfully. But if you know anything about possums, they don't react fearfully. They play dead. They play possum.
Right.
So every time they tried to kind of elicit a reaction from the possum, it would just roll over and pretend to be dead. So
I'd like to do that as an actor
I don't know
someday,
if
right?
you
I'm
could
tired.
Just be like, I can't get it.
I'm sorry. I'm not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it.
I'm feeling threatened.
I'm just going to play dead. So they were, take after take after take, and they finally got one close-up shot of it hissing or giving them something, and they just made the most of that one shot, and that was the possum's big moment.
That was the possum's big moment. Now, is it Opossum or Possum?
I have always said Possum. I don't know.
I'd have to Google that.
I'm not enough of a Scully to know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Yeah, because it's always funny to say opossum. There's an opossum or possum. I'm going to Google that.
Possum.
Yeah, it's really confusing. But
it is.
They also used an animatronic possum.
Yes.
Because I was watching that thinking, boy, that looks awfully real. Did they really terrify this poor thing and then pull it out before it was drowned? Nope.
They did not. No animals were harmed during the making of this exorcism, during this exorcism scene. Yes, they had an animatronic in the cage so that when they went to drown the possum, it could, obviously the animatronic did a much more, was a much better collaborator
yes.
than the real possum.
Yes.
And responded as aggressively as they needed during the drowning. The other fun tidbit are the Krone Stones, as they're called.
Oh, yeah, those are neat. That huge one that they put on Letty Mae's stomach.
Yes. So those are actually, the writer of this episode, Chris Offutt, has a unique interest in Krone Stones, and for his
Yeah.
whole life has been collecting stones with holes in them that naturally have a hole in the center. So he has this large collection. He wrote them into the episode, and they used Chris Offutt's Krone Stones for that scene.
So cool.
Yeah, I think that's really fun.
I know. I think that's really fun. And I guess that he gave one to the director at the
yes.
end.
Yes.
You know, thank you for being here.
Yeah. And I think they're meant to be lucky and also, associated with spirits and things like that. So it fit right into this story. And I love that he drew from his own experience with that.
That's really neat. Speaking of own experience and belief, right? Like,
Well, we officially meet Miss Jeanette this episode. And, at this point, we're not sure if she's legit or if she's a con artist or what she's peddling or if it's a little of both. And again, we'll have Aisha on today to talk more about what she saw in this character.
Oh, that's so interesting to hear from her.
But it is really remarkable how Miss Jeanette pins Tara and Letty Mae, to a T. She can see right inside, see their vulnerabilities, and sort of know exactly what to say. I think even Tara this episode, unwittingly, I think sort of defines her experience as well. It's one of my favorite lines from the episode as well.
How would you know something like that?
No daddy and a drunk mom. All the fixing fell to me.
To me, there's something about that, all the fixing falls to Tara.
Yeah, she's always got to keep it together. And she doesn't ever receive. She's always the one having to take control, to be on guard, to keep everyone else balanced as best she can.
Yeah, and then, to bring belief into it once again, that belief that if she didn't do the fixing, if she didn't take care of it, that everything would fall apart is so strong in her.
Yeah.
That letting that go and maybe letting Sam care for her or, letting her mother make her own choices and her own failure. It's so hard to let go of that when, as a child, that was rooted so deeply within her character.
Yeah, from the moment you're born. Rutina plays it so beautifully.
And even the fact that line that Tara, Rutina doesn't play it with Tara being aware of what that means. It's just an irony to her.
Right.
But as we watch it back now and we feel the subtext of what Rutina brings to it, you go, God, that is her actual subconscious screaming, help me.
That is her Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Miss Jeanette, if we were all wondering if she's a con artist, she really is accurate with Tara. When she knows what's happening with this person.
When she knows her mother, so she knows, a lot about what's coming into this, and she can see how much Tara is protecting of herself.
But can't love herself.
But can't fully love herself. And it's just like any good con artist, therapist, religious, leader potentially, they have this insight and you can choose to use it for good and healing, or you can choose it to use it for manipulation. And I think the wonderful thing about this character of Miss Jeanette is we feel like she isn't one or the other. She can use it to make money and she can use it to genuinely try to help you heal.
Yeah. I mean, it really is the placebo effect, right? It's a valid thing.
Yeah, it's a valid
something like 40% of people get well from the sugar pill.
Yeah, because our belief is that powerful.
Our belief is that powerful.
We get into this, but that's what acting is in so many ways. It's a belief in story and a belief in character.
Yes.
I always liken it to, when you are a little kid lying in bed and you hear a noise in the hallway and
it's an alligator.
Your parents told you it's just an old house and it makes noises, but and your palms start to sweat and your heart starts to beat faster and you experience genuine fear, even though it's fiction.
Yes.
And to me, acting is just doing that on purpose. Acting is just believing in the monster so that your body and your mind responds.
That's it.
Yeah. And so, I think in many ways, Miss Jeanette is an acting coach. She's just helping Letty Mae and Tara believe that they can be well, that they can get past these struggles.
Yes. And like you said, any good therapy, religion, what have you, is doing that for you and with you. Yeah. Yeah.
And why shouldn't she get paid?
And why shouldn't she get paid? And it resonates all through Aisha when we heard her audition story right from the beginning.
Oh, you guys, you are in for a treat. Aisha had some gems of stories.
That's the best audition story.
One of the best.
That's one of the best.
Yeah. So, let's jump right to it. I mean, we are thrilled to welcome Aisha Hinds to the podcast. She plays Miss Jeanette, a pivotal character in season 1. She also goes by another name, which you'll learn later. Mm-hmm. She has a very impressive resume, stage and screen, and it shows in the superb performance that she gives. So let's jump on in.
Yeah, so good.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for coming and chatting to us. We couldn't do a first season look back without speaking to Miss Jeanette. Aisha
Thank you
Hines.
for including me. Thank you so much for including me. That was really, really nice of you guys. I had the best time, a really great time being on that show. And it was really sort of transformational for my life being on that show. I didn't even realize what was happening or what would happen as a result of being on even just that one season of the show. So I'm glad that you guys reached back for me and included me in this look back.
Well, you did an incredible job. I mean, Kristin and I now, we're watching the show 5 times now, preparing for all of this. And it's such a pleasure to watch your scenes. And, there's this wonderful twist to it. It's just a really amazing story about the power of belief and all of those kinds of stories. So, we usually just start with, how'd you get the role? Do you remember what your casting was?
And I don't remember a lot of auditions or you or the minutia or the small details. But this one in particular I did because there was so little that made sense on the page. Because the audition material I remember was the exorcism.
Right.
It was. And so it was written in this gibberish. And so I was like, wait, what am I saying? What's happening here? And so it talked about the materials that Miss Jeanette was gathering. It described that. And then it was just gibberish on the page. And then I got the sense that she was performing this exorcism. So I remember vividly, I would have my friends, kind of read lines with me and read off screen with me to help learn lines. And so I was just gathering stuff from around my house. And I had this vase from probably Pier 1 that had these wooden decorative sticks. And I was like, you know what, give me that. And so I'm just I'm gathering stuff and using it and I remember telling myself, Aisha, this is going to either be the silliest you'll ever look or you'll book the job, because it was you got to go full out, you can't try to ground gibberish. You just have to commit to it and make it as if what you're saying. And so I did that with my friend, and it was it was so much fun. And she was like, what are you gonna do in the room? And I was like, I don't know, because I don't really know what they want.
I'm gonna bring the sticks, and
so I literally brought the sticks.
You did. I was wondering.
Brought the sticks into the audition.
Commitment.
I know. And I remember Junie and Libby were in the room, and Alan Ball was in the room, and I was like, balls to the wall at this, you know what I mean? What do you have to lose when it's Ramda Glassa Bapa Daka Gararamba on the page? So I literally go into the room, and I mean straight faced, because at this point I don't know the twist that's coming for her, So I'm committed to who she says she is and what she says she's going to do. Straight face, delivered this seance in the room, got down on my knees. I remember it was just a beautiful office with palm trees out the window. It was nothing of the actual atmosphere that it would land in. But I created the world for myself in my mind and in the space that I had. And I remember doing that. And they literally, I remember them looking back so stunned, she really did do that.
But I love that has currency with them.
Yes. Yeah, I did too. That's why I appreciated it so much. And that same currency, I think, traveled throughout my experience on the show. And I think for others as well, you know, you can attest to that, you know, in that they did afford a lot of empowerment for people to inhabit the characters and the roles that, you know, they gave them, and really, you know, allowed people to fill the world that they created in Bontom, you know? And so it was the first time in my career at that point that I felt free to embody a character and try things and do things, you know. For the most part, and which is why I approached it as like, well, I don't know what they want, you know, because I always in my mind thought that I had to walk into the room and give them what they want, as opposed to like what I imagined, or you know what I mean? And so it was helpful that there weren't any words on the page, because then I could imagine a world for her, and you know, and an aesthetic for her, and a rhythm for her, and a voice for her, and a walk, you know. And so they supported that and encouraged it, you know, and then brought in directors that helped to facilitate that. And so it set a bar for me, honestly, you know, like, oh, this is a thing, and this is possible, you know. And I think that it was definitely a groundbreaking time in television in terms of like doing programming and shows that, you know, that did push the envelope a little bit and talked about things, you know, in a very provocative way, you know. So yeah, I remember getting the call that I had gotten the job, and that's where the real fear began, because I was like, okay, what do we do now? Like, how do we actually make this?
But I love that you have that feeling of like authorship a little bit over your character in the show. Not to take anything away from the writers, but I feel that too, that it felt so collaborative, that I feel a sense that I helped create her. It wasn't just saying someone else's words. And Kristin had these, so we were curious about like the limp and the voice, and like, is that all you, or was that on the page?
If I remember, I think there was something that informed it on the page. And then I just, you know, continued to sort of lean into it. And I remember when I watched it back, I was like, I'm so grateful that they gave her something and allowed me to sort of lean in and create it. I do remember that they had talked about her using a stick to walk, you know? And so I think I imagine that obviously if there's a stick involved, then there must be, you know, some kind of physical limitation that also corroborates with that, you know? And so it just gave it another layer of what made Miss Jeanette unique from Nancy, you know, and any other thing that I had ever done after or before.
Yeah.
Wow. I was Googling you. You've played so many, as you do, in preparation. You've done so many.
Google early.
The powerful source of information.
So many great roles. You worked with Anthony Hemingway. I don't know if you got to work with him on True Blood as well, but you worked with him on Underground.
That is where I met the love of my life, Anthony Hemingway.
Oh, isn't he?
I met him on True Blood. And I don't remember a lot of, you know, when you have a career of, and because sometimes working on different shows and projects, interactions can be so transactional, you know, relationships, you know, can sort of move very fluidly and fast. But I remember working with Anthony. I remember being on that bus. And I remember him coming in, and he just is a light in any space that he enters, you know, and just brings such a joy and an ease. And I remember him as one of the directors who was really empowering and also had ideas and thoughts. And I remember him saying to me, you know, and it's almost like he gave me an analogy for one of the moments. And it was kind of like, you know, when you go to the store and it's like, you know, $5.99.99, you know that you're getting over on some. And I remember him giving me that note, you know, in relationship to delivering the cost of the seance to Retina's character, Tara.
Oh, that's a great
And
note.
So, but that's where we met, and we just continued our relationship onwards. But True Blood was where we met.
Where it all began.
And now we're True Blood.
Yes, now you are truly True Blood. That's amazing. Oh, I love to hear that. And that's not the first story we've heard too of people who worked together on True Blood, and because of the atmosphere on that set, found a creative, connection and carried that forward. And I'm so happy. Like, that's really the best thing I think that can come out of this is real connection and a chance to continue to make great work.
Yeah. I remember, when table reads were a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The table reads for True Blood was almost like Thanksgiving dinner,
Well, especially on a show that felt like we had 4 different shows going on at the same time.
1,000%.
To be able to meet you when we would never have worked with you.
Exactly.
Right? Is amazing.
Exactly. I had never worked really with Stephen Moyer and Anna Paquin, who played Bill and Sookie, but I saw them at a table read. And then, I remembered meeting them, and they were so different from the characters, that they played, and they were so sweet.
So talk to us a little bit about Miss Jeanette. And once you're in these scenes and you're starting to get the fuller picture, what was it that sort of excited you or scared you, or about kind of stepping into that role?
I think what started to excite me and scare me at the same time was vacillating between how much of this is true for her, and how much of this she's sort of manipulating, you know what I mean? And understanding how much she can sort of take people's faith and be perverse with it, essentially, you know what I mean? In order to get what she needs in the moment,
Right.
But again, because I didn't know the twist that was happening later, I was completely buying into her being either a woman of real faith and knowing how to manipulate it so that people could, could be healed of whatever it is that they're dealing with, or she was just genuinely, like a con artist. And I just didn't want to have her just be a con artist. So I was like, no, she believes this is, authentically doing some good. Like, she has to, she cannot be manipulated, and so I was kind of happy when, when I saw Adina's character, come up from underneath that disease of addiction, and Miss Jeanette sort of maybe had a hand in that, and she was able to also sort of identify Tara's, issues and encourage her to sort of look at what may be at the root, and it might not be as obvious as like alcoholism or you know what I mean, but there's some level of broken, you know what I mean? And so I really valued her insight and her ability to sort of see deeper, and so I really like that. But at the same time, I was like, but that's also the ability of a con artist. So
it's both, isn't it?
Right.
You can be therapist or con artist.
So I was like, I don't know where this is gonna go, but I really hope she's a good person. She's not just.
That's interesting. You didn't know that whole time.
Yeah, I didn't know for a while.
She is laser precise. She really does.
She is laser precise.
There's a show there, but she was 100% right about Tara, that she said, look in the mirror and see if you can count to 10. I mean, that was really perceptive.
Yeah. And I also think that I think too was the ability for people to see in others crystal clear some things that they may be struggling with or may have struggled with, you know what I mean? So I get the sense, because then when it is revealed, all the things that Miss Jeanette and Nancy was dealing with, being a mom and a grandma and having, a child in prison and another, you know what I mean? Like, when you have that load, you're desperate, and so then for me, it ignited or, uncovered a whole nother backstory that led her and her family to those circumstances. So I'm like, there must be something that she sees in Tara that she herself, connects and, and she sees happening inside of her. And so she's able to say, you know,
yeah,
look in the mirror. I know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah. Well, we spoke with Adina about, you know, her work on Letty Mae, and she, you know, she had this incredible insight, which is that like most addictions, that's the symptom, and that she's dealing with depression and poverty and racism and sexism. And, you know, her whole life is sort of led her to this point. And I think you're right that Nancy, again, fascinating to hear that you didn't know going in, but it plays so clearly, you know. I don't feel like there was I don't feel a stutter step in there at all as I watch it.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you were toying with that line of wondering how genuine she was, or how accurate. I suspect most therapists feel that way, actually, right? Like they're wondering,
am I a fraud? Or
am I a fraud? I mean, I have that piece of paper, but is this me that I'm projecting onto the person? And I hope I'm helping them, and I am collecting a fee, and you know. And so then when you got that scene in the pharmacy, what did you think when you saw that? Because it really, in some minds, could have confirmed that she was a little bit of a fraud, but she wasn't.
Right.
It was both. You know, it was everything that we all deal with.
Yeah. When I got it, I chuckled and I was like, oh my God. Because initially I was like, no.
Right.
But then when she sort of took up for herself and let Tara know, like, this is what my life is. And when Tara threatened to tell Adina,
right,
and she let her know, like, there's no value in blowing my cover to your mother, because that'll just blow up everything that she's experiencing right now. You know, and there is value in what I did for her, and so accept that, and, you know, and be okay with that. But it did make me feel like there was an authenticity, and I don't think she was intentionally trying to be like a scam artist. I think she was mindful about what she could do in order to help her family. Tried it, it worked, and then she was like, maybe I'll keep doing this thing, you know. And I do think that she did have some kind of, you know, sixth sense and insight, and sort of postured it in a way that was helpful to others, as opposed to, you know, sort of keeping it to herself. Because I think we all have, you know, just an innate sense, you know, on how to see people and see ourselves in others, and help people to see themselves, you know. And so I think she understood how to make it valuable for not just herself, but for them. And I think that's what that scene in the drugstore kind of told me.
I think she has a line, is that faith is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
You know, and you mentioned faith in your life. It's the powerful thing.
It is a powerful thing. And what I think Tara was sort of, you know, hit with is like, what do I do here? You know, is this woman, is this a perversion of faith, or is she using faith as a prop? Or, you know, is there really power, you know, embedded in this faith, you know? And I think all things sort of happened all at the same time. And you kind of have to look at the outcome, you know, is it producing good?
Right.
You know, and so just allow it to do so, you know, and overthinking it, or trying to expose, I guess, the wrong thing, you know, there's no value in that, you know. But when I heard and when I read that line, it really stuck with me then, and it still sticks with me now every time I hear it, you know. And I think it gives people pause, you know, to kind of think about what that means for them.
Right.
What's amazing as an actor too, because I think so much of our life, our job is about power of belief, right? Can we believe that we are Jessica Hamby, who is a vampire in this world? You know, and that's part of what our work is. We have to believe with all of our heart.
Exactly.
Yeah, with your Pier 1 sticks in an office.
Yes.
Like new.
You had to believe.
I had to believe with all of my heart.
All like daylight
and it got you the
in.
job.
Right.
Speaking gibberish. Like you just had to
waver on that.
No, you had to believe as much you could. It's amazing me that you literally just said that you think Miss Jeanette helps people see themselves, which is literally what you did for Tara, that when you have the second exorcism, she sees herself as a little girl. And it's so incredible watching Rutina's work and how, again, complex this character is and how much you just want her to love herself as much as you love her.
I know.
And for her to see herself as a little girl and have that freeing moment. And I do think Miss Jeanette, Nancy, gave that to her.
Was a vessel in making that happen, you know? And I think that just in life, in our life experiences, unexpected vessels can sometimes come into our lives and help us to see ourselves, or you know, a previous version of ourselves, or you know, like that little girl, and there's value in that when you start to connect the dots of how your childhood experiences and traumas, you know, impact you and live with you and inform who you are as an adult. You know, it all starts to make sense, you know? And so you see the final product of, or you see the present product of Tara, and then realize like, oh my God, at one point she was this tender, soft little girl, you know? And that was not that, you know? And so something in between there created that, or something at this point, you know, in her life and in her childhood, later became and created that. And so giving her a path to look back and see this little girl and address it, you know, because she goes after it, and it's almost like, I think she took like a weapon or something, you know, to kind of kill the pain, I think, or kill, you know what I mean, deal with and confront the darkness or the trauma, the experience that impacted that little girl, so that she can free that little girl, the innocent little girl, to now exist in the world separate from that darkness, you know, which then gives her, the adult, an opportunity to be free of that as well.
Yeah.
Those scenes must have been really something to film. Like, was that bus at Greer? Or where were you?
It was at Greer, and I will have you know. It actually, I think, was two places. So I think we started actually in the woods somewhere.
Okay.
Right.
And I think they built it out. Did they build it out? I can't remember, but what I do remember is that once we got to the stage and built the bus on the stage, it was so small inside of there.
Oh.
So the actors barely fit in there. So imagine crew fitting and camera.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
So, and then the candles were real.
Oh.
It gets real intimate real fast.
Performing a seance over Rutina, and I all of a sudden feel heat on my back.
Oh,
and
my
this
goodness.
really happened. I'm bent over, and my wardrobe is in the candle on fire on this bus.
Oh my God.
And at that point, I was like, whoa. Is this like, is Miss Jeanette really? Like, lines have crossed here.
You're like, I'm really feeling this. And then they came in with a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
Oh
if
my
I'm not
gosh.
wrong, I think someone must have been like beating down my back. It was, and I think it was Anthony's episode. And I was like, okay, all right, okay.
So you were probably freezing at Greer and then on fire
and then on
stage.
fire in the bus. All the extremes. That is dedication.
Oh my gosh, it must have been something. Were there moments?
So many levels.
There was so many levels. And I don't know if there was space to here and there just laugh and go, this is my job. This is actually what I do for a living. Playing a vampire, I had many moments like that where I was like, this is ridiculous and awesome and fun. But like, God, I mean, Deb laughed at me so hard one night, me trying to pull off this thing that they wrote, right? That she had tears. Her neck was wet with tears. It was so ridiculous, the stuff we did.
Oh my goodness.
And God love actors, because you take your Pier 1 sticks in that room and then you're on the set on fire and you just keep going. Like you probably didn't even call cut. Like someone had to come in and put you out.
No. You were committed.
And that is the power of belief.
Yes.
Power of
so
belief.
deep in it.
Yes.
God, I love us. I really do. The power of belief. I mean, you're like
literally.
6 years old and you're pretending you're a flight attendant or whatever.
Yep. This was so much fun, Aisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so glad we got to get it done. And this is great. And I can't wait to listen to everybody else's stories and stuff. And you guys were awesome.
So fun. I mean, everybody, the consistent refrain is just the 100% effort that every single person put into this, from crew to production staff to actors to director. I mean, everyone comes in and just talks about the incredible amount of thought that went into it. And I can see why it was a hit and why we all like each other so much.
It showed up. It showed up on the screen for sure.
I know people say the word family a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you are no exception to any of that.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you. And again, thank you for including me in this.
That was so wonderful to hear the way she puts things. I made notes just for my life, like this unexpected vessels.
I mean, really, her language is so specific. It's so detailed.
Yes.
And again, to be able to highlight these actors, these characters that do smaller arcs, but bring everything to it.
Yes. To hear her audition story, all of it was fascinating to me.
She got lit on fire for this show.
True Blood lit her on fire.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing person. And again, if we weren't doing this podcast, I wouldn't get to know her.
And wouldn't get to know these stories. And, I'm so happy we can have this compilation. It's like, I feel like an archaeologist, it's history that now gets to be saved and shared.
Yes. What is that? It's a time capsule, but there's so many of these stories that just they would have gone to dust. So this is so fun.
Well, next week on Truest Blood, the remarkable Stephen Root is going to join us, and we'll discuss all things Eddie Fournier.
The best vampire. And we examine the deeply rooted fantasies of our characters and how reality can shatter those fantasies in a heartbeat.
An undead heartbeat. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, Truvies. Subscribe and follow wherever you listen to your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.
Y'all come back now, you hear.
Truest Blood is produced by Safe Haven for HBO Max. Executive producers are Janina Gavankar, Kristen Bauer, and Deborah Ann Wool. Our producer is Gabrielle Gallon, and our audio producer is Christopher Wool. Our theme song was recorded just for this podcast by Jace Everett. Additional music was composed by Timo Chen. And remember, you can watch all of the original episodes of True Blood on HBO Max.